My dad yelled, "We do what we want with our house." After stating in the will that everything would go to my brother, I put the papers down and said, "So I do what I want with my money." Then cut off every dollar I'd been giving them. I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, small brick house on a dead-end street, kind of place where every neighbor knew your dog's name, but not necessarily yours. My parents, Craig and Karen, raised 2 boys there, me and my older brother Logan. Logan is 37 now, 3 years older, and for most of my life I would have told you we were close. Not best friends or anything, but close enough. We'd grab a beer every other weekend, talk about football, complain about our wives in the way guys do when they actually love their wives, but need to vent about whose turn it was to load the dishwasher. Normal brother stuff. I'm a plumber, have been since I was 19. I skipped college because, honestly, school wasn't my thing. I could barely sit through a 45-minute class without feeling like the walls were closing in, so the idea of 4 more years of it sounded like a prison sentence you pay for. I went to trade school instead, got my certification, and started working for a local company. By 26, I had my own small business. Nothing flashy, just me, a van, and a willingness to show up on Saturdays when someone's toilet decided to stage a rebellion. I did okay. Better than okay, actually. I built that business from scratch into something that employs 8 people now. I own my house. I've got a retirement account. My wife, Olivia, and I aren't rich. But we're comfortable, and we earned every inch of that comfort with our own hands. Logan went the college route, business degree from UT, then an MBA, then a string of corporate jobs where his title changed every 18 months. But his actual responsibilities remained a mystery to everyone, including him. He married Jessica, who is exactly the kind of person whose entire personality is based on what her kitchen island is made of. Quartz, if you're wondering, she'll tell you twice. Logan and Jessica live in a big house in Franklin, just south of Nashville, and they drive the kind of cars that make you wonder if the monthly payment comes with a complimentary anxiety attack. They look successful. Whether they actually are is a different conversation. Now, here's the thing about my family that I didn't fully understand until 8 months ago. My parents always treated Logan differently, not in a way you could point to and say, "That's messed up," more in the way that water wears down a rock, slowly, quietly, over years. Logan got the bigger bedroom growing up. Logan's soccer games were the ones Dad never missed, while my wrestling matches were we'll try to make it situation. When Logan graduated college, they threw a party. When I started my business, I got a card and a $25 gift card to a hardware store, which, look, at least it was relevant, but you see my point. I told myself it didn't bother me. I told myself that parents are human and they connect differently with different kids, and it doesn't mean they love you less. It just means they express it differently. I had a whole internal monologue about it that I'd rehearsed so many times it almost sounded true, and for the most part I believed it. I had Olivia, I had my business, I had a life I'd built from the ground up. I didn't need my parents' approval, I just wanted it. And there's a difference between those 2 things that'll eat you alive if you let it. So, 8 months ago, it was a Thursday evening in September. My parents' kitchen sink had been leaking for about 2 weeks. Mom called me about it 3 times, not to ask how I was doing, mind you, not to see if Olivia and I wanted to come over for dinner, just to tell me the sink was dripping and could I come fix it because that's what I was to them. Not Nathan, their son, Nathan, the plumber. The guy you call when something's broken. I drove over after work, still in my work clothes, still smelling like PVC glue in someone's crawl space. Dad was in the living room watching some nature documentary about wolves, barely looked up when I came in. Mom pointed at the sink like I'd never been to their house before and said, It's the one on the left, and then went back to folding laundry. No hello, no thank you, no offer of a glass of water, just a pointed finger and a dripping faucet. I got under the sink. It was a simple fix. Worn-out cartridge in the faucet valve, 10-minute job at most. I needed a specific wrench from the junk drawer next to the fridge, the one that's been stuffed with every random tool, receipt, and takeout menu since about 2004. I opened the drawer and started digging through the chaos looking for an adjustable wrench I knew was in there somewhere. That's when my hand hit an envelope. It was thick manila, tucked under a pile of old warranties and rubber bands. The flap was open, and I could see there were official-looking papers inside. Normally, I wouldn't have thought twice about it. My heart stopped when I realized my own parents had quietly cut me out of their future. It wasn't just about the money. It was proof that my brother had always come first. What they didn't know was that finding that envelope was about to change everything. People keep random documents in junk drawers all the time, but something about this one caught my eye. A sticky note on the front, written in my dad's handwriting, said, "Updated August. Do not lose." August was just last month, so this was recent. I pulled it out. I knew I shouldn't have, but my gut told me otherwise. Inside was a copy of my parents' will. Actually, it was their entire estate plan, trust documents, asset allocations, property deeds, everything. A cover letter from a Nashville law firm I'd never heard of was stapled to the front. As I started reading, my hands went still. Everything was going to Logan. The house, the savings accounts, a brokerage account I didn't even know existed. A piece of land near Cookville that had apparently been in the family for years. At the bottom of the summary page was the total. $740,000. Every cent was left to Logan Daniel Parker. My name appeared exactly once. Under other considerations, it read, "Nathan William Carter shall receive personal effects as deemed appropriate by the surviving trustee." Personal effects. Basically, whatever they didn't feel like throwing away. I read it twice because I thought I'd missed something. Maybe there was another page with my name on it. I checked every page. There wasn't. I was still kneeling on the kitchen floor when I heard my dad behind me. "Put that down!" I turned around. He was standing in the doorway, his face bright red. Mom stood behind him, twisting a dish towel in her hands. "Nathan, put that down right now." I stood up slowly. "What is this?" Dad's jaw tightened. "That's none of your business. It's a private document. It has my name in it. I'd say that makes it my business." Mom stepped forward. "Nathan, honey, you're taking this out of context. Estate planning is complicated." $740,000, I said. "What part am I taking out of context?" The kitchen went silent. The faucet I'd been fixing kept dripping into the sink. Dad crossed his arms. "Your brother has a family to provide for. He has responsibilities. He needs the security. I have a family too," I said. "I have a wife, a mortgage, and a business with 8 employees." "That's different," Mom said quietly. "How?" She didn't answer. Dad cleared his throat. "You've always done well for yourself. You've always been independent. Logan has had a harder road." I almost laughed. The Logan with the Master of Business Administration degree, the corporate job, the house in Franklin, and the $70,000 truck. That's not the point. You helped pay for his Mediterranean cruise last spring. You gave him $62,000 for his house. Meanwhile, Olivia and I worked for every dollar we had because we thought that's what you'd respect. I looked straight at them. "I guess what you respected was Logan asking." Dad stepped closer. "You don't know what you're talking about. Then explain why Logan gets $740,000 while I get personal effects as deemed appropriate." Explain it to me like I'm the kid who wasn't smart enough for college, I said. Explain it real slow. That one hit him. I saw it all over his face. It was the exact line he'd used on me when I was 18 and told him I was going to trade school instead of college. He'd said, "I guess not everyone's cut out for the academic route," then walked away. No encouragement. No support. Just a sentence meant to make me feel small. Mom started crying, not loud sobbing, just quiet tears, her chin shaking as she wiped her eyes with the dish towel in her hands. Normally, that would have worked on me. Normally, I'd calm down, apologize, hug her, and pretend everything was fine. I'd been doing that for 34 years. Find something painful, get upset, watch Mom cry, apologize for having feelings, then go home and act like nothing happened. Not this time. "I need you to answer me," I said. Dad sat down at the kitchen table and rubbed his face with both hands. He stayed quiet for a while before finally looking up. "Because Logan is going to take care of us." There it was. The truth. No more excuses, no more estate planning talk. They were putting everything into the son they expected would take care of them one day. Logan would move them into his big house in Franklin. Logan would look after them. Logan would be the good son who showed up with grandkids. I was just the plumber who fixed the sink and went home. "Has Logan agreed to this?" I asked. Dad looked down at the table. "We've talked about it." "So Logan knows about the will." Silence. "Logan knows," I repeated. He still didn't answer. That was answer enough. I set the papers on the counter and looked at the sink. The wrench I'd been searching for was sitting right there beside the envelope. I could have finished the repair in 5 minutes, replace the cartridge, tighten everything up, clean the sink, and drive home. That's what the old Nathan would have done. Fix the sink. Swallow the hurt. Call Olivia on the drive home and tell her she wouldn't believe what happened, then spend the next few weeks pretending it didn't bother me. Instead, I set the wrench back down, picked up my tool bag, and looked at my parents. "The faucet needs a new cartridge," I said. "You can buy one at the hardware store for about $12. There's a video online that'll show you how to replace it. Good luck." Then I walked out. I drove home without saying a word. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't call Olivia. I just drove while my mind replayed my whole life through a different lens. Every birthday when Logan got the bigger gift. Every holiday Dad asked Logan about his career but never asked about my business. Every time Mom introduced us by saying, "This is Logan, he's in business," and then pointed at me and simply said, "And this is Nathan." Not Nathan the business owner, just Nathan. When I got home, Olivia was sitting on the couch reading. She took one look at me and put her book down. What happened? I told her everything, every word, every look, every number in that will. She never interrupted. She just listened. When I finished, she sat quietly for about 30 seconds. Then she said 4 words. "We're done with them." I know that sounds dramatic. I know some people will say it's only money and family matters more than an inheritance, but it was never about the money. I didn't need their $740,000. I'd been building my own future since I was 19. It was about what that money represented. That will was a scoreboard, a legal document saying one son was worth $740,000, while the other was worth whatever old belongings they didn't want anymore. That happened 8 months ago. I haven't spoken to my parents since. I haven't spoken to Logan either, and until about 2 weeks ago, none of them tried to contact me. The first few weeks after I walked out of my parents' kitchen were rough. I'm not going to pretend they weren't. I buried myself in work, just like I always did whenever I didn't want to deal with what I was feeling. Olivia let me get away with it for about 10 days before she finally set me down. "You can't outrun this with a pipe wrench," she said. "You actually have to deal with it." She was right. She's right more often than I'd like to admit. I found a therapist named Stephen. He was in his mid-50s, a former military guy who didn't waste time letting people ramble. If I started making excuses, he'd stop me and ask, "That's the story you're telling yourself. What actually happened?" I liked him right away. He never treated me like I was broken. He treated me like a capable man who'd spent 30 years believing the wrong things about his own family. Stephen helped me realize the will wasn't where this started. It was where it ended. It was the result of years of little decisions that all pointed in the same direction. I was the easy kid. I never asked for help, never caused problems, and never expected anything. Since I never asked, they stopped offering. Eventually, they stopped seeing me altogether. I didn't need money. I just wanted to matter as much as my brother. Cutting off my family left a strange, empty space in my life. Suddenly, there were no Sunday phone calls with Mom, no stopping by Dad's garage to help with another project, and no more holidays where Logan got all the attention while I quietly passed the dinner rolls. It was amazing how much free time I had once I stopped trying to earn love from people who'd already made up their minds. I poured that energy into my business. I'd been handling scheduling, billing, and paperwork myself for years, and it was holding us back. So I finally hired an office manager named Claire. On her first day, she looked at my filing system, basically a few milk crates with masking tape labels, smiled and said, "Oh, honey, we're going to fix this." Within 3 months, she digitized everything, organized the office, and freed me up to focus on growing the company. I started bidding on bigger jobs, including a restaurant renovation, a dental office remodel, and a brewery expansion. Every project led to another. By the end of January, about 5 months after leaving my parents' house, the business had grown by nearly 30%. I hired 2 more plumbers, bought a second work van, and when Olivia and I looked over our finances, we realized we were in the strongest position we'd ever been in. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Olivia's career was taking off too. She decided to make freelance graphic design her full-time job, built her own website, and within a few months she had more clients than she could handle. For the first time, we truly felt like a team. We were building our future together without the constant pressure of trying to prove I was good enough for my family. I even started sleeping better. I hadn't realized how much stress I'd been carrying until it was finally gone. For years, I'd worried about whether my parents were proud of me or whether I'd ever measure up to Logan. Letting go of that felt like a huge weight had disappeared. Stephen and I kept meeting every other week. He helped me understand that my need to always be useful wasn't just part of my personality. It was how I'd learned to survive. Somewhere along the way, I'd convinced myself that if I fixed enough problems, people would finally love me. The truth was, I'd become so useful that I was invisible. They only noticed me when something needed fixing. I'm not telling you this because I want sympathy. I'm telling you because it's important for what happened next. Around February, I started hearing things through the grapevine. The next news came through the kind of small-town gossip chain you couldn't make up. Olivia's sister, Samantha, is married to a guy who works with someone who knows Jessica's co-worker. Ridiculous? Absolutely. Reliable? Usually. The news was simple. Logan was having money problems, not the kind where you cut back on takeout or cancel a few subscriptions, the kind where your whole financial life starts falling apart. His company had gone through layoffs in November, and his position had been restructured, which is just corporate language for you're out. He found another job, but it paid less, and less income doesn't work when you've built your life around spending more. I also heard Jessica wasn't taking it well. She started posting online about embracing a simpler life and finding happiness with less. In my experience, that's usually what people post right before the credit cards hit their limits. Money was getting tight. They were arguing more. That big house in Franklin suddenly didn't feel so impressive when the bills kept stacking up on the quartz kitchen island. Then I heard something even more interesting. Remember how my parents said Logan was going to take care of them? That was the whole deal. $740,000 in exchange for future care, future holidays, and future loyalty. Well, Dad's health had started getting worse. His knee had become bad enough that he needed surgery, and Mom's arthritis was making it harder for her to keep up with the house. They needed real help, someone to actually show up. But according to what I heard, Logan wasn't. He was too busy, too stressed, too far away. There was always another excuse. The son they'd trusted with everything wasn't delivering much in return. I'd be lying if I said that didn't give me a little satisfaction. Not because I wanted them to suffer, but because their plan wasn't working the way they thought it would. They'd bet everything on one son, and now even he was struggling to keep his own life together. Meanwhile, my life had never been better. Therapy was helping me. My business was growing. I had a wife who loved me without conditions, employees who respected me, and friends who were actually there because they wanted to be. Everything I had, I'd earned myself. Then one Wednesday night in late March, my phone rang. I looked at the screen. 2 words I hadn't seen in 8 months. Mom calling. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. Then I set my phone on the kitchen counter and stared at it. Olivia walked in, saw my face, looked at the phone, and asked, "Your mom?" I nodded. "You going to listen to it?" "I don't know." "Yes, you do." She was right. I was always going to listen. Not because I missed them, although part of me probably did, but because I wanted to know what had finally made them call after 8 months of complete silence. I played the voicemail on speaker. Mom sounded older than I remembered. "Nathan, honey, it's Mom. I know it's been a while. I know things were said that probably shouldn't have been said, and I know you're upset. Your father's knee surgery is coming up, and we could really use some help around the house. There are also a few things we should talk about. Please call me back. I love you." I listened to it twice. There was no apology, no admission they'd done anything wrong. Just, things were said, you're upset, and we need help. Classic Mom. Turn the whole thing into a misunderstanding, make my reaction sound like the real problem, and slip the favor into the conversation at the end. How convenient that the son who fixes things was suddenly needed again. I didn't call back that night, or the next day, or the day after. At my next therapy session, I told Stephen everything. He listened quietly before asking one simple question. "What do you actually want from this?" I sat there thinking about it for a long time. The answer surprised even me. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to punish them. I didn't even want the money. What I wanted was simple. I wanted them to admit it. I wanted them to say out loud that they'd treated me like I mattered less, that the will wasn't just an estate plan, it was a verdict, and that they were wrong. "Okay," Stephen said. "So what's your plan?" "I don't have one yet." "Yes, you do. For some reason, everyone in my life seemed to know me better than I knew myself. The next week, I did something I should have done 8 months earlier. I called a lawyer, not because I planned to sue anyone. I just wanted to know where I stood. A friend from high school, Brian, had become an estate attorney in Nashville. I called him, gave him the basics, and asked if he'd meet me for lunch. We met at a barbecue place off Charlotte Avenue. I explained everything I'd found in the will, while Brian worked his way through a huge plate of brisket. Legally, he said. Your parents can leave their estate to whoever they want. They don't have to split it evenly, and you don't have a legal claim. I figured. But here's the interesting part, he continued. The house down payment, the cruise, all the financial help they gave Logan establishes a pattern. If they built their estate plan around Logan taking care of them later, and he isn't doing that, then that's their problem, and it's his problem, not yours. I thanked Brian, paid for lunch, and drove home thinking about everything he'd said. Mom kept calling every few days. Each voicemail sounded more desperate than the last. Dad's surgery was 2 weeks away. The gutters needed cleaning. The house needed work. Now the bathroom faucet was leaking too. It almost felt like the whole house started falling apart the moment I stopped fixing everything for free. Then Logan called. First time in 8 months. I didn't answer, but I listened to his voicemail. Hey, man, Mom and Dad are really struggling. It's pretty selfish that you've been ghosting them over some paperwork you weren't even supposed to see. They're getting older, Nathan. They need their family. Call them back. Call me, too. We need to talk. Selfish. The guy getting everything called, the guy getting nothing selfish. I showed the voicemail to Olivia. She listened once and shook her head. He doesn't even realize he just proved your point. She was right. His whole message was about what I should be doing for them. Nothing about what they'd done to me. Nothing about the will. Nothing about fairness. Just be useful. Same script. Different person. I decided I'd call Mom back, but it would be on my terms. I wasn't coming over to fix gutters or repair faucets. I wanted a real conversation, face to face. And I wanted Logan there, too. This wasn't just between me and my parents anymore. It involved all of us. I called Mom on Saturday morning. She answered before the second ring. Nathan, honey, I'm so glad you called. We've been so worried. Are you okay? We miss you. I'm fine, Mom. I want all of us to meet, you, Dad, me, and Logan, at the house. There was a long pause. Why does Logan need to be there? Because this involves all of us. Can you make it next Saturday? I heard Dad asking in the background who was on the phone. I'll talk to your brother, Mom finally said. Saturday should work. Your father's surgery is the following Monday. Good. And, Mom, I'm not coming to fix anything. I'm coming to talk. She didn't answer. I'll see you Saturday. Then I hung up. During the week, I got myself ready. Not for a fight. Just to be clear about what I wanted to say and what I needed to hear. Stephen helped. Olivia helped. Knowing Brian had already explained my legal position gave me some peace of mind. The night before, Olivia and I sat on the back porch. It was April, warm enough to enjoy the evening, and the sky slowly shifted from orange to purple. She reached over and held my hand. Whatever happens tomorrow, she said, you're coming home to me. That's enough. I know. Do you? I squeezed her hand. Yeah, I said. I do now. Saturday morning, I put on a clean shirt, a good pair of jeans, and my favorite boots. Not to impress anyone, just to remind myself who I was. Olivia held my face in both hands before I left. Don't you dare apologize for having feelings, she said. I got in my truck and drove to my parents' house. Logan's truck was already in the driveway. I parked behind it, took a deep breath, and walked inside. I didn't knock. I wasn't a guest. I was their son, whether they treated me like one or not. They were all in the living room. Dad sat in his recliner with his bad knee propped up. Mom was on the couch with her hands folded. Logan stood by the fireplace with his arms crossed, looking like he thought he'd already won. Nobody said a word. I sat down by the window. So, who's going to start? Logan spoke first. Yeah, I'll start. You've been acting like a child for 8 months, Nathan. Mom and Dad have real problems and you're throwing a fit over a piece of paper. Grow up." I let the silence hang for a second. "Is that what they told you?" I asked. "That's what it looks like." "You're standing in the house that's going to belong to you," I said, "along with $740,000 and the land in Cookville. I don't think you're exactly an unbiased witness." His jaw tightened. I looked straight at him. "Did you know about the will?" He hesitated. "Logan?" "Yeah. Dad told me about it last summer before they finalized it." "And you never thought to tell me?" "It wasn't my place." "It wasn't your place to say anything," I replied. "But it was your place to accept everything." Mom leaned forward. "Nathan, your father and I made that decision for practical reasons. Logan agreed to take care of us when we're older. That's a big responsibility, and we thought the estate should reflect that." I nodded. "Then let me ask you something." I looked at Mom. "How many times has Logan been here in the last 8 months to help around the house?" Nobody answered. "How many times has he cleaned the gutters, fixed the faucet, helped Dad get ready for surgery, done the jobs I used to do every week without asking for anything in return?" Mom's chin started shaking. Dad kept staring at the floor. "I'll answer it," I said. "From everything I've heard, he's been here about 3 times since September. 2 of those were holidays." Logan's face turned red. "I've been going through a tough time. I lost my job. Jessica and I have been dealing with—" "I didn't ask about your problems," I interrupted. "I asked about your promise. You accepted $740,000 because you were supposed to take care of them. Now they actually need you, and you're too busy." The room went silent. I could still hear the kitchen faucet dripping. Nobody had fixed it. I turned to Dad. "Look at me." Slowly he raised his head. His eyes were wet. I'd never seen that before. "Why?" I asked. "Forget the money. Forget the will. Why was it always Logan? What did I do?" Dad swallowed hard. "You didn't do anything." His voice shook. "You were always capable. You figured things out on your own. You never seemed to need us the way Logan did. Somewhere along the way, your mother and I confused you not needing us with you not wanting us." "That isn't fair." "I know. I needed you too. I just showed it differently. I showed up every week. I called Mom every Sunday. I came to every holiday, even when I felt invisible. That was me trying." Mom was crying openly now. Dad wiped his eyes. "I see that now." "Then say it," I said. "Say what you did was wrong." He took a deep breath. "What we did was wrong. The way we treated you was wrong. I'm sorry, Nathan. I'm sorry we made you feel like you mattered less." Mom nodded through tears. "I'm so sorry. I was afraid to bring it up because I thought you'd never forgive us." "I'm not interested in holding a grudge," I said. "I'm interested in seeing things change." Then I looked at Logan. "You knew what they were doing. You watched them cut me out and you never said a word." He looked down. "You're right," he finally said. "I should have said something. I'm sorry." I believed him. Not because the apology was perfect, but because it sounded honest. We talked for another 2 hours, more honestly than we ever had as a family. Dad said he'd rewrite the will and split everything equally. Not because I demanded it, but because he admitted it was the right thing to do. Mom promised she'd start caring about my life instead of only calling when something needed fixing. Logan and I agreed to start over. I didn't fix the faucet that day. I came back the next week instead. While I worked, Dad sat beside me in the kitchen. He handed me tools, asked about my business, my plans, and then asked me something he'd never asked before. "Are you happy?" I was 34 years old. It was the first time my father had ever asked. It's been about 2 months since that day. Things aren't perfect, and They probably never will be, but they're better. Dad had his surgery, and both Olivia and I helped during his recovery. So did Logan. Not because of a promise tied to an inheritance, because it was the right thing to do. My business just landed its biggest commercial contract yet, and Olivia's design business is doing better than ever. We're even talking about buying a bigger house. Last weekend, Dad came to my shop for the first time. After 15 years, he'd finally seen what I'd built. He looked around at the vans, the tools, and the office before turning to me. "You built all this?" "Yeah," I said. "I did." He smiled. "I'm proud of you, son. I should have told you a long time ago. That's my story. I found an envelope that told me exactly how my parents valued their 2 sons. I walked away, rebuilt my life, and when they finally came back, I didn't ask for money. I asked one question. Why? That answer changed everything. If you've always been the kid who gave the most and got the least, remember this. Your worth isn't decided by people who fail to see it. Build your own table. If they ever want a seat at it, make sure they bring more than excuses. I've got a faucet to fix.